name is Alec Pointer. I am the Vice Chairman of the Grimes County Republican Party. On behalf of myself, Susan Patrick, our Chairwoman, and the rest of the party, and the Republican women, I'd like to welcome you. Thank you for coming out and braving the weather. It's a few more people than we expected, so that's always a great thing. I want to give you a few reminders before we start. Right over here, where Lynn is raising her hand, if you need to register to vote or you need to change your registration, you can handle that there. The last day to register to vote for the primary is February 5th. Yes, sir.
Just like the citizens to know, candidates to know, we now have a little over 20,000 registered voters in Grimes County.
That's right. That's a few more than the other day when we got a text that we had 19,999. Right over here, right past Lynn, is Marilyn, who everybody in the county knows, I'm sure. And she will help you purchase your tickets to the Reagan Dinner. The Reagan Dinner this year is February 3rd. It is our opportunity for fundraising, and it is a really great time. We get to see everybody, hear a great speaker, and eat a great steak, so there's nothing better. A few other things that you should know. This year our primary is March the 5th, and I believe we have exactly one Democrat running in the county, so if you want to have a say in who represents you, May 5th is the day that you get to do it. Not only do you get to make your voice heard on the national level for the first time, but that's when we're going to pick our leaders in the county. So it's very important that you don't wait for that general election, that you come out and vote in the primary. Get your friends and your family to vote in the primary. If they need to be registered, get them registered. We would love to have as many as possible, and it's very important that you remember that all those big blue counties, the Republicans there, they need us to turn out so that we kind of shave off some of the lead that they get in those big populous counties. The rural counties saved Texas in the last couple elections. We want to keep doing that. So we're going to go through a few things, but first, is Matt Vaughn here? There he is. We're going to start off with our invocation, and then I'm going to introduce our moderator and go over a few rules, and then I'm going to sit down and listen.
I hope it doesn't offend anybody. I got my trunk here. Not wrong? What's wrong? Well, we got a lame group, don't we? I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Should I say anything? Let's pray. Oh, gracious God, I just thank you. I thank you for those who have turned out on this cold wintry day to listen to the candidates. God, we just ask that your grace be with us. But more than anything else, God, we offer a special prayer for Israel and Ukraine and all of the stuff that's going on over there. But more importantly, it's time that we stand up as believers and speak directly to the garbage that's going on in our world. That's the only way it's going to change. God, give us the spirit, not a spirit of timidity, but give us the spirit to speak up and stand up for the right things of our world. May the candidates speak directly with grace and intellect, God, that we might be one. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, before we are introduced to our moderator, I do want to say a couple thank yous. Thank you first and foremost to the candidates for for coming and presenting themselves to hear all the questions that are asked by those that they want to represent. Thank you to all of you and the citizens and voters that sent in questions. Thank you to my fellow committee members that went through those questions. We spent a lot of time working on them, trying to make sure that they were combined and that we were asking in the limited amount of time that we had the questions that would give you the most information. I also want to thank the Grimes County Republican Women for being our co-hosts and providing the wonderful snacks. So that's always a good thing. That's why everybody's here. They're not here to hear you guys. They're here because there's some really good pecans back there. I do want to introduce Kenny Graves of Willie 1550 AM and 98.7 FM, who's our moderator. Let's give him a big hand. Just a few things before I turn it over to him. Again, we solicited and received questions by the residents of Grimes County. Candidates have already been given the rules that we've asked. They're in front of them in case they forgot, but we've asked that there's no mudslinging or attacking the other candidates. We're all Republicans here. The candidates are expected to finish their sentence and end the answer when the timekeeper says their time's up, and the timekeeper's right here. Kenny will give us the amount of time for each question. You'll get a yellow card when you've got 10 seconds left and a red card when your time is up. We're on a really tight schedule. We want to get these folks home before it gets really cold. And so we ask that when you see that yellow card, you finish up your sentence and let that be that. All of you folks should feel free to come and go for some snacks. If you can do so quietly. And we do ask that you not hold conversations in the hall, not even in the corners. If you feel the need, please step outside. So we're going to get started now, and I'll turn it over to Kenny.
Again, thank you all for being here, even though there's a Dallas Cowboys playoff game going on. I'll do my best. I won't say anything if I see a score. I'll keep that to myself. We're starting off with state representative candidates. To my left over here, we have Trey Wharton, John Harvey Slocum, and Ben Bias. And gentlemen, we'll start here. Trey Wharton, will begin with you. A couple of multi-part questions. Regarding representing District 12, can you name your top 3 priorities in 1 or 2 words and expand on your top priority? 2 minutes on this one, please.
Hello? Okay. Sorry, I don't have much of a voice. My top priority would be the border. That's an invasion that's going on right now, and we need to invoke the Constitution and take care of that problem. It's because it's not just families coming across for refuge. It's actually young men and how you take over a country, but from the inside. And we need to take care of that problem. That would be the #1 issue. We need to continue to protect our Second Amendment rights. And we also need to make sure that we're not letting foreign entities buy our property, and so that we can use the property for the way we see fit for us. So I can't talk much longer than that.
Thank you. Mr. Slocum, same question to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I think you'll see all of us today. The #1 thing we have to do in Texas is immediately close our border. There's about 8 million people that have come here in the last 3 years. I don't think that people realize that's more than about 38 states in the United States have in total population. So it is a problem. We have a surplus of money in the bank in the state of Texas, and we need to do whatever we can to solve that. We need to keep men out of women's athletics, protect the women's rights. We fought 50 years to get Title IX on. That needs to be important. But there's also local issues. We have issues in District 12, Grimes County with the huge, I don't think people realize how big those school districts are. We have 3 or 4 big neighborhood subdivisions, super plan developments coming in. We need to figure out how to fuel and fund infrastructure for those projects. We need to make sure that we protect our landowners and their property rights to keep the high-speed rail train. coming through Grimes County. So we need to focus here and on our national issues as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bias.
Well, thank you. My name is Ben Bias, and my goal is to, let's take back Texas. Texas has been overrun. We have a traitor in the White House. Our border's been overrun. Fortunately, we had Ben Lamont, who wrote a bill that finally got passed called Senate Bill 4 that made it a state jail felony if you come into Texas illegally as a trespasser. The governor is doing his best today to try to enforce that law, and of course the Biden administration is fighting against it. I intend, if I'm elected, to support our governor and support our attorney general in defending Texas. My number one goal, and the reason I'm really in this race, is because I'd like to take back our schools. I believe that our schools are independent school districts, and we need to return independence to the independent school district. And otherwise, we need to protect our teachers. If we will restore to teachers the absolute control of that classroom, the young children coming in there will respond, and we can take back our classroom. After all, it's your money, they're our children. And I would like to bring some sanity and adult behavior to the Texas House to get things done. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be for all three candidates. We'll start with Mr. Wharton. It's a multi-part question again. Where do you reside? How long have you lived in the boundaries of District 12? Each county in the district has unique needs, so how can we be assured that Grimes County will receive adequate attention if you're elected?
Thank you. My wife of over 30 years now lived in the same house for 20 years in Huntsville, Texas. I grew up there. I have family from Grimes County. It runs pretty deep, and we all, a lot of the counties have similarities, but we do all have our own things that make us different and special. And the way I've operated and all the different boards I've been on, whether it be the school board, the hospital board, or the Chamber of Commerce, I talk to the people to find out what do you need, and how can it help you? And is something going to be bothersome to you or cumbersome? And so in order to be a representative, it's a servant role, and that's what I've done and all the things I've done. I'd like to take that through the entire district.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Slocum, same question.
Just so I'm sure, when you repeat that question.
Certainly.
Years in the district.
Yes, sir. Where do you reside? How long have you lived in the boundaries of District 12? And being that each county in the district has unique needs, how can we be assured that Grimes County will receive adequate attention if you are elected?
Certainly. So my wife and I were both born in Bryan College Station. We have lived, actually, we moved about a mile over 9 months ago. So we've lived in the district actually for 9 months. We have lived kind of with my in-laws for a little longer than that. Unfortunately, my wife went through a hard medical issue with our father, and we lost him about 9 months ago. So we've been here, we're lifelong residents of the district, and you know, I think one of the things we can do better to help Grimes County and District 12 is be more attached to our districts. One of my goals would be to have leadership teams in each one of the counties in this district and make sure that I'm involved and present. I think that's something we can do much better than our predecessor has done, and just be involved and find out what the needs of the counties are. Grimes County in particular, I was at the Economic Development Conference that happened this week, heard the school board, heard the needs for the law enforcement, and I think just being engaged, involved, and present in the district is the first step we can do to make this better.
Thank you. Mr. Bias, the same question, sir.
Well, I came to Sam Houston State University in 1974. The day my grandmother dropped me off was the day that the prison was overrun, and we drove back home to Liberty, Texas. And my grandfather was scared to death, thought Texas and Huntsville was being overrun and taken over by the prisoners. I graduated, started a real estate company. I can remember when there was a little sign on the road coming into Anderson that said "Land of Milk and Honey." I wish I'd gotten that sign and saved it. But that, you know, Grimes County, I've sold ranches all over Grimes County. I've been a home builder, developer in Huntsville since since I graduated. My degree's in finance and I have a minor in agribusiness, so I understand business, I understand this community. And I believe I know this district as well or better than anybody, and I believe that that will be a huge asset, is knowing how to help the county judges, the sheriffs, all of the elected officials in the county in Austin. I'm a real good learner, a real quick learner, and I'm a fighter, so I'll fight for Grimes County. And thank you.
Thank you. Back to Mr. Wharton. What is your opinion on high-speed rail projects, and why do you feel that way? 2 minutes on this one.
I'm against the high-speed rail, and that goes back to one of the things of saying we need to have control of our own property, be able to do the things that we want to do, because it's ours, and a lot of this is not the early 1900s. We do not need to have these problems. You end up dividing land that can't be used for hardly anything what it's being used for now if the high-speed rail came through. That's pretty direct.
Thank you. Mr. Slocum.
On the same side of that, I'm opposed to the high-speed rail for 2 reasons. One, as a businessman, it doesn't cash flow, so it's a project that I don't think we should put effort into. The other thing, if you ever do build a high-speed rail, you're gonna have a 30-foot berm that they acquire private property. I'm a landowner, property rights person, but that also creates other problems that we need to solve in doing so. Your infrastructure, your response time for law enforcement and first responders becomes an issue. So that's a very in-depth question, but the reasons behind it are very simple. It doesn't make money, it creates other problems that we don't need to create.
Thank you. And Mr. Bias?
I will kill the high-speed rail. Ben Lamont and I worked on it 2 years ago, and he worked on it before, and he led the coalition to end the high-speed rail. I've been in the real estate business and been a real estate broker and developer. My wife and I's business was taken by eminent domain. I was designated as an expert witness against the eminent domain proceedings. I understand the issue. I know how to fight it, and it's not, in my mind, going to happen. We can kill it, and I know how, and I've been involved in fighting it. I've had property owners who I represented up in another county up here who were tricked by right-of-way agents into signing an option. He was an older man, and I tried my hardest to convince him not to sign the option agreement. They're using options. In my mind, they're using these options fraudulently. And that would be one thing that I would like to see reformed, is right-of-way agents do not have the right to go and mislead property owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to Mr. Wharton now. If you are elected, how many terms will you serve if you continue to be re-elected? 1 minute on this one. Sorry, I can't get this microphone set just right. If you're elected, how many terms will you serve if you continue to be re-elected? 1 minute.
So I would serve as many terms as I felt that I was still helping the district. I've done all of these things in my home community to serve, and that's what this role is. It's a service role. And that's how I've treated my business, to serve my clients, and all the things I've given back. So if I did not feel I was serving and engaged with the communities of the district, then I would not go for re-election again.
Thank you. Mr. Slocum.
I hate to ever say and promise things in public, but here's what I will say. I'm a huge advocate for term limits. So I'm not doing this to get in and serve a lifetime in the Texas House. That would be, again, as Trey said, as long as I felt like I was being productive and making good for our community, in our district, I would stay engaged, and that is for re-election. But I do think we should have term limits, and it's not something I want to get into and serve a lifetime in. So.
Thank you. And Mr. Bias.
Well, I'm not seeking a job or a career or a pension in politics. My goal is to serve and get things done and provide a sane, strong, conservative voice in the Austin arena and the Texas House of Representatives. I believe that we need strong conservative leaders that have a track record of getting things done, understand business, and can't be bought. So I intend to serve as long as my health and mental acuity is there. And I have a few good years remaining in my life that I intend to dedicate to God in Texas.
Mr. Wharton, back to you now. What are your thoughts on school choice? Do you support combining increased school funding with the teacher raises in the same school choice legislation?
Yes, I've served on the school board the last 8 years in Huntsville. I do not have a problem with the school choice. Families deserve to have the right to choose the right setting that they feel is correct for their child. And the last bill came out, it had several items it talked about. You had stop losses for the school districts if they lost a certain number of students. And also you were helping more of the lower income poverty students, families, and you could actually make a generational change for a student basically in an inner city school that can't get out of the situation they're in. So it took away the ability for it just to be a free-for-all, which is how it all started out. And so now it's actually accountability, and that was one of the issues the public schools had also. There was no accountability.
Thank you. Mr. Slocum.
Going to Austin, two of my goals would be one, to make sure that parents have a say-so in their kids' education. The other would be to make sure that our public schools are funded and that kids don't suffer by what we put in place. We need to take care of our teachers, and we need to make sure that our kids in need have a way to find success. So if that bill was combined, or if it was two separate bills, the kids and the opportunity for parents to have a choice in education would both be very important to me.
Mr. Bias.
This is the reason that I'm in this race. I had a dream about a week or two before Mr. Cassell decided he wouldn't run again, and I dreamed that I would regret the rest of my life if I wasn't in the room and made a difference for our public schools and these children. Texas is in serious trouble. And that's why I believe that the debate needs to be focused on this one question. These are our children, and they're our schools. And we need to take back the classroom first. That's what we should be talking about. How do we make sure that we have well-trained teachers who are well supported by the administration? COVID taught us one thing, and actually Mr. Cassell and I agreed in this very forum 2 years ago. We cannot afford to continue to not modernize the public education system. And that means restoring control of the classroom to the teacher. End of story.
All right. Mr. Wharton, back to you. What are your thoughts on the border crisis? What else do you think the state of Texas can do to reduce the number of illegals entering our state?
I think I already kind of touched on this one. That was one of my number one issues. We need to put a task force together and work with other agencies in order to get that under control and basically take it upon ourselves, because right now we're not going to get any help from the federal government. And so we need to do that in order to protect our sovereignty and be able to secure a bright future and secure future for our families.
Mr. Slocum.
Yeah, I said when we started, I think our biggest crisis is the border. I think we have a surplus of funding right now. And I think we need to do day one of our next legislative session is to make sure that we take all steps necessary to close the border immediately and support our law enforcement agents that have been way stressed beyond their means.
Thank you. And Mr. Bias?
Fortunately, we didn't lose our Attorney General to an insane impeachment proceeding by a runaway Speaker of the House. And we have an Attorney General who's fighting the federal government at every turn. We have a governor who has also taken a very bold step, declaring that Texas has been invaded. We have Texas Rangers, and we've always had to stand up for Texas since the beginning of our republic. I can tell you this, that regardless of what I say or do, or any of these other gentlemen say or do, if we don't elect Donald Trump as president and run Joe Biden and his cronies out of the White House, we will not be able to secure our border. We will not be able to take back Texas. We've got to take Texas back, and to win this border issue, we need strong leadership who will finish the wall and stand up to the federal government.
All right, we have questions now for individual candidates. 1 minute responses here, please. For Trey Horton, how do leadership positions in Walker County translate to you effectively representing the 5 other rural counties?
Well, I think that goes back to the years of service that I've given, and that's what a representative is a servant. And I have done things, whether it be on the chamber or the school board, where policies and procedures came up. I would literally ask people that it was going to affect the most. Is this going to help you or hurt you? And they would tell me, how else would I be a representative for them if I wasn't talking to them? So I would be available to you. I want you to get to know me. I want to get to know you. Otherwise, it's not going to be any good. We'll have the same situation we have right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Slocum, you have run for state representative before in District 14 in the Bryan College Station area. Early in the cycle, we heard that you were planning on running in District 14 again this year. What changed your mind to run in District 12?
So we had made the decision as a family, and I did run in 14 2 years ago. It was a wonderful experience. I did that leading and being a part of the Texas House has always been a dream of mine. I mentioned earlier that my family has gone through some extenuating circumstances with my father-in-law. In doing that, we had actually decided to not run this cycle. We were moving, we had purchased land and moving to this district. Didn't see the incumbent retiring at this time, so we were going to take the cycle off. But when the opportunity arose, I didn't want to let that pass. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. We didn't know it was coming. We got in because we had done this and prepared and felt like we could get a campaign going. And it's something that I always wanted to do. But it turned out to be a wonderful opportunity, and I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Bias, it's our understanding that you were supporting Trey Horton before Kyle Cassell chose not to run for re-election. Can you please tell us what changed?
Well, quite frankly, in a way you're correct. I was very disgusted this summer with the impeachment. I was very disgusted that we called 4 special sessions that were actually never going to produce a result as a result of that impeachment. And I was very disgusted with the Texas House of Representatives. When Sid Miller called me, I was in the middle of building a Texas Roadhouse in Huntsville. I'm a real estate developer, have a lot of things underway. Bring businesses to this area, and I was very busy. Sid said, "Ben, you need to go sign up and run." I said, "Oh, Sid, come on." He said, "No, you go home and you talk to Kim and y'all pray about this." And so I did. And I said, "Kim, we're going to give up the last best part of our lives in service to Texas." She said, "Donald Trump doesn't quit. You don't either." I'm a fighter. I believe I can best represent this district, and it's my duty to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've got some lightning round questions. These responses need to be about 30 seconds or less. And we'll start with Mr. Slocum. Would you vote for a bill prohibiting the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party,
Absolutely.
members of the CCP, and other countries that threaten the USA from buying land in Texas?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll add to that, I would also stop the solar farm and wind farms from taking great agriculture and developable land as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bias, the same question to you, sir.
Well, absolutely, and it's a shame that that bill died in the legislature last session. This bill should have been passed a long time. And it's not just China, it's everybody who is a threat to the United States of America. Strategic assets. Farmland is the most important thing we have. We feed the world. And Texas, Agriculture means a lot. That's why Sid Miller's endorsed me, because I'll get the job done.
Thank you. And Mr. Wharton?
Be quick, ditto. I just think we can all agree on the exact same things, so I don't need the full 30 seconds.
Mr. Bias, the next question starts with you, sir. Given the looming water crisis in Texas, would you ever, under any circumstances, vote to tax water wells?
No, it's a property right. It travels with the land. That is your property. You're taxed enough on your property. Why in the world would we tax a person's right to withdraw their property from their property?
Okay, then to Mr. Wharton, same question to you, sir.
I have to agree with Mr. Bias' answer.
Mr. Slocum?
I agree with those answers, but I'll add, we also need to go one step further, and being an oil and gas guy on the drilling side, we need to make that a little further to make sure that we are doing everything in our means to recycle water as well when used in fracking and major water usage.
Thank you. The next one will start off with Mr. Wharton. What is your position on a state income tax?
No.
That's a good answer. Mr. Slocum, to you, sir.
Absolutely not. I'm not in favor of any taxes and would never vote on a new tax.
Mr. Bias.
New trade, ditto. We fought this battle many years, though. They're always wanting to try to figure out some other way to tax you, and it spends your money. And that's what we need to do. We need to fight these ideas. They'll come up till the end of time, and the answer needs to remain no.
Mr. Slocum, we start with you on this one. Would you support voter elections to authorize local option elections to allow casinos?
That one's a tough one. I would have to say, I think that Texas needs to look at offset revenue and other ways to drive revenue. So I would look at legislation. I don't know that I would support that, but gaming and casino is something I think could raise revenue, and I would look at that legislation. And I don't want anybody to confuse that with I would vote for that, but I would have to look at that and evaluate it before I voted either way on that legislation.
Mr. Bias? They bounce around on these.
I opposed casino gambling and have for years. Chief Silverstein over with the Alabama Coshada Indians. 23 years ago, I attended a tribal meeting and I promised him that I would fight casino gambling. He was opposed to it because of what it does to the families, what it does to the community. It's corrosive, and if you can't drive to Louisiana or Oklahoma, tough.
Next question. We'll start off with Mr. Slocum here. Would you support voter elections to authorize, that's what I just did. If elected, will you vote for Dave Phelan as Speaker of the House? Please answer yes or no.
No.
All right, Mr. Wharton. Same question.
No.
Mr. Bias.
No, never. I'm going to vote for a conservative speaker who won't appoint Democrats to chairmanships. We have a Republican majority. We need to learn to act like it.
All right, time for closing remarks now. Mr. Bias, we'll start with you. 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much for coming out today. I know that it's a cold winter day, and my name is Ben Bias, and our campaign is about taking back Texas. You know, it's not a time for sunshine patriots and winter warriors. It's a time for us to all fight. And in the invitation, it was pointed out that we're going to face not just socialists, Democrats, communists, whatever you want to call them. What we're fighting is principalities and powers. It's evil. And this problem will not go away. Not in our lifetime. But what we have to do is raise up leaders who are willing to be bold, who will fight, who will not cave in, and can't be bought. Because I can tell you in Austin, Texas, they make a sport out of trying to change your mind and make you into a liberal. Well, I have a long track record of being a conservative activist. Most of you remember that I pointed out Mr. Cassell's liberal voting record is the most liberal state representative in Texas. And we did a good job in winning that battle. And I believe that we can do it again. We can elect a conservative representative from this district who will make us proud. And I hope to be that guy. I've got a good track record, good business, a great wife, and I'd love to serve you in the Texas legislature. And thank you all for coming and braving the weather.
All right, Mr. Slocum, your closing remarks, sir.
Well, we came here so you guys can get to know us. Without introducing the best part of me, I wouldn't let you know that. But I want to introduce my wife, Teresa Slocum. Most people introduce their wives as the prettiest person. My wife's the hardest working, most faithful person I know. My daughter sitting next to her, Dylan Slocum, is a freshman at A&M. She's in the Zeta sorority. She's taking a leadership role in that. My son Bubba next to him is a 16-year-old. He's a student at A&M Consolidated High School. This month he was elected the Agriculture Student of the Month. This morning he went on a duck hunt with his buddies and he killed him a banded bird, which is the first one he's ever done. But I say that because you know people by the way their kids are. My kids are fabulous. I'm the son of a football coach. I was raised to learn what discipline was, hard work, leadership, and faith above all things. I don't have great political speeches. I'm not an eye guy. To be effective in Austin, you have to have 76 votes. You have to be able to get people to join your side and bring people together. I believe in being very demanding without ever being demeaning to people. And I promise you, if given the opportunity to represent you in Austin, I will be effective. I will work hard every day to stay connected in these districts where you see me. And I will work harder every day to make sure that our communities, our counties in this district are taken care of and looked after as good as they can be looked after. So thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate you all joining us in this bad weather. And we're here because of you. You are all concerned. You're concerned about the direction we're going. And that's why we're sitting up here. So thank you all for coming here and making this as important as it can be.
And Mr. Wharton.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being here and missing the Cowboy game. So, kind of go back to what I said earlier. This is a servant role, and that's exactly what I have done. And I told my wife that I feel like I'm supposed to do something on a bigger scale to help more people from what I've done at home. I grew up in a Christian rural atmosphere. That's why we moved back home to raise our kids in Huntsville after college. I moved to Huntsville when I was a small child. My dad opened a meat packing plant. So I've seen a lot of things. I realized real fast I did not want to work on a processing floor for the rest of my life. So, but I started an agency, an insurance agency, the whole time while we were raising our family. I was giving back in different fashions, and that was to pay it forward to the next generation. And this is what this role would be, is to pay it forward to our kids and our grandkids. And that's what I want to take to the rest of, for everybody else to benefit from. So I want, as I said earlier, I want to get to meet you all, and you all to get to meet me and my wife and family, and then that way we know where we're coming from. Because if something comes up that I'm not too sure about, I need to know from firsthand, how is this going to help you? Is it going to hurt you? And that's the only way we're going to be able to do that is if I know you. So I'm Trey Wharton. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. We appreciate it very much.
Gentlemen, we really appreciate you coming. We'll ask that you join the audience. I'm sure these gentlemen will stay with us and be happy to talk with you afterwards. And we appreciate you. Let's give them another round of applause. I do want to mention that in all of our documentation, we said that we were going to have all of the county-wides today. Our district attorney, Andrew Bender, was not able to be here. She had a trip that she had planned before we planned the date. I'm sure everybody will forgive her that, and we'll move on. And like I said, all the candidates, if they choose, will be here afterwards, so you'll be more than welcome to talk to them then. So we hope that you'll listen to our next group.
Next candidates we'll hear from are for County Attorney Megan Moody-Barchak and Ashley Falco-Verschure. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Opening statements right now. We'd like you to introduce yourself, including why you want to be Grimes County Attorney. Mrs. Barchak, you begin, please.
Hello, everyone. To mimic what they said earlier is thank you for coming out in the cold. Hope you're staying warm inside. Most of you know me just from growing up here, but for those that I haven't been able to meet yet, my name is Megan Moody-Barchak, and I'm running for County Attorney. So my family's been here for about 7 generations. My husband and I came back here to raise our family because of our support system, but 2, because of the community itself. I think it's a great place to raise a family. Once we moved back, I was looking for ways to get involved, and of course this position came available, and I thought that would be a great opportunity for me to take something that I love doing, being an attorney, and giving back to the community and helping out the county in that way. Why I want to run is because I want to give back, but also because I think my experience will assist the county in many ways. To kind of touch on what I do currently is I'm an in-house attorney for a publicly traded company. We operate in about 10 different states, and I have about 800 employees. What I do for them is I manage their litigation, manage all their contract negotiations, along with advising their department heads. I think that directly applies to what the county attorney does for you guys, which is advising your public officials, advising the department heads on anything that comes up, any type of project that they want to get involved in, specifically with any type of contract negotiation is a big one. Every person that I talk to in the county, that's the biggest thing they say is anytime a contract comes on their desk, the first person they call is John C., and so now that will be the next county attorney. Prior to my current role as in-house counsel, I worked with construction law and construction litigation. I think that's a big thing that's coming up considering our annex. I'm out of time, so I'll kind of pass this off. But I look forward to helping Grimes County as it continues to grow and thrive. And I think that I'll be in a good position with my experience to help mitigate the challenges that come with that growth.
Thank you. Mrs. Verschure.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I will say the same thing. Thank y'all for weathering this weather. I am a Cowboys fan, so I appreciate all of you who are also missing the Cowboys game to be here. I know what a sacrifice that is. So, my maiden name is Falco. You may have heard of my family. We've been here for 5 generations. I saw an article in the paper talking about Megan and I both being millennials with strong ties to the community, and I could not agree more with the way that our families have grown up here. I grew up here. I went to Navasota High School, went to A&M for undergrad, and then went to South Texas for law school. The only time I haven't lived here in Grimes County is when I was in school. I lived in College Station for A&M, and I lived in Houston very briefly while I was at South Texas, and came right back as fast as I could. I am married to Eric Verschure. He is district chief at Washington County EMS. So somehow I managed to find somebody who works 48-hour shifts and marry him. But we make it work just fine. We have a 2-year-old son named Noah, and he is definitely 2 right now and acting that way. But I'm a third generation attorney. I work with my dad, Joe Falco III. I came back right around the time that my grandpa, Joe Falco Jr., retired from his practice, and my grandpa was actually county attorney for 32 years. He served in that role from 1972 to 2004, I believe. So I had several people approach me about this position when it became clear that John C. was going to retire. And I'm going to be honest, I did not have any interest in being in politics. I saw my dad do it, my grandpa do it, family friends do it. But I sat down and looked at the job, and I realized that this is what I do. The courtroom part of it, the advising part of it, this is what I do. And I feel like my experience, and hopefully you'll hear about that with the rest of the questions, make me a perfect fit for this job. Thank you.
Thank you. Bear with me a second. The live feed, okay. Okay, that'll pick you on both up. All right, next up, these will be 90-second responses, ladies, and we will start with Mrs. Barczak. As a practicing attorney, how much of your experience to date has been involved with reading, reviewing, and negotiating contracts? Both.
Both? Okay, this is gonna be fun. So as far as reading, negotiating contracts, currently that is what I do. I've done that since the start. I actually did that as a paralegal before going to law school, so my total career, I guess. But currently what I do is what I touched on earlier was I do all of the negotiation contracts for a gas compression company. And so that touches anywhere from real estate agreements, lease agreements, to vendor and supplier agreements. And prior to that, I worked in a litigation firm, but we also worked for the companies prior to them getting involved in litigation. And I helped with construction contracts as well as different types of agreements that came up because of like a settlement and a mediation.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Brasher, same question, and both mics.
Yeah, this is weird, but thank you. So I will say, I've primarily practiced in family law and probate, and have more recently transitioned into doing a lot of property work. So I would say it has been a part of my career for the entirety of my career. In family law, one of the things that we say is that we kind of have to know everything. Folks that are getting divorced are involved in all kinds of stuff. They have businesses, they have land contracts, they have oil and gas leases, and you kind of have to know it all to be able to help people through those situations. Same thing with probates when you're dealing with somebody's estate. So I would say that my job itself, it is not reviewing contracts, but part of my job is doing that when it comes up. So in a way, it's been the entire time, but it's when it comes into my office, and it depends on in what type of case it is that I'm reviewing them.
Hang on to those mics. The next question starts with you, ma'am.
All right.
What kinds of cases have you tried in courts? And if elected, do you think you have the experience to sue the state of Texas, Texas Central Partners, or any other entity Commissioner's Court directs you to sue?
Absolutely. So my entire career's been in the courtroom. I got on the appointment list as soon as I came back and started my practice. That involves CPS cases, which is exactly what the county attorney prosecutes. I've been doing those for 7.5 years. Protective orders, what the county attorney prosecutes. I've been doing those for 7.5 years. Last year, my dad and I tried it was a parental termination case, but based on a murder. And it was a 3-week-long jury trial over in San Antonio in an area that we were not familiar with. And we were successful in that lawsuit. That was the biggest thing I've ever been involved in, and I feel extremely prepared to try any kind of case that comes my way because of that case. And I'll say, when it comes to suing the state of Texas or an entity such as that, my grandpa went up against TMPA when he was county attorney many years ago, and he was successful in that. I'm ready to do the exact same thing. If I gotta be at the helm dealing with the high-speed rail coming through, I'm ready to do it.
Thank you. Mrs. Barczak, same question.
Yes, so as far as cases that I've handled in court, as far as a trial, that would be a construction litigation that dealt with billed. So I handled a couple of those. Now, as far as my cases that I've done over my career, most of those have ended in mediation, as that's the cheapest way for the client most of the time. And it's better for businesses to kind of go forward that way. Now, as far as handling it as county attorney, I don't have any issue. I'm not scared of the courtroom. I have no problem with that. So I'm interested and ready to see what we're going to sue state of Texas for. But I'm ready for it. So let's do it.
We're going to start the next question with you, so you can hang on to those microphones. Okay, what is the depth of your knowledge of state statutes which govern the operation of county governments? 90 seconds.
So that's the local government code. I started off my career as a paralegal and then as a lawyer, dealing with municipal utility districts that also operate within their own statute. So dealing with municipalities, and if people don't know much about MUDs, what they do is they basically come into counties and they set up their own, basically a government within your county, and they have their own election rules, and they also have the ability to assess taxes. So I dealt with that. I dealt with a lot of municipalities that dealt directly with the MUD districts on that side, and then also when I went in, prior to going in-house, I worked with several different government entities, one being a port authority, and they also kind of go off their own statutes and codes. They're a municipality that's created on their own. They also dealt directly with, so the port authority was in Galveston, and they dealt directly with the county of Galveston County as well as the city of Galveston, and I had to deal a lot with the local government code. Hello? It's not working out. But I had to deal a lot with the local government codes and what we could get involved with the local government as far as the county and the city goes. Okay, it's still green, it's just not. I yelled at it
Check.
and then, oh. Maybe we switch, okay.
You get a double A.
I feel like I yelled to the people online and then no one up here. So sorry, people online.
Check.
Okay. All right. Can y'all hear me okay? All right. So as far as the government code that Megan referenced, when I originally decided, I'm not pulling the second mic, I'm sorry to people online. When I originally decided that I was interested in running for this position, I went and met with John C. Foltz and said, hey, what do I need to know? What do I need to learn? What can you tell me about this position that I don't already know? And he said, go get you a copy of the Texas Government Code and read it front to back. And I will tell y'all, it's like this thick, okay? So it sits on my nightstand, and I read it at night. I haven't made it all the way through yet, but I'm working my way through it. My personal experience with it, I was recently put on a committee with the city of Navasota, the Charter Review Committee, and I was amazed at how much I learned being a part of that, and how that the municipal rules and laws that govern them are within the Texas Government Code. So I got some experience with that as well. So my experience is, I haven't read through the whole thing yet, but I'm working on it, and I have some experience working with the city of Navasota through that committee.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, Mrs. Brusher, we'll go with you. And we'll read this verbatim, the way it's typed up. With all due respect, can you answer a question with a yes or no?
It depends. So, attorneys, that's the joke. The answer is always it depends. And truly, it usually is. Usually if you ask me a question, you're not giving me enough facts to give you an answer. So I will say it depends and ask you for some more facts. So all due respect, probably not, unless you give me enough facts to give you an answer. But if I've got enough facts, I will tell you yes or no.
Thank you. Mrs. Barchak, same question to you, ma'am.
I will kind of mimic Trey on that and ditto, but I will also touch on that there's a lot of things that go on in government and then also on the business side of things that the answer isn't always no, but it's maybe not that way. But we can look at it and figure out what you're trying to get to your ultimate goal and then work on that. So I can answer a question yes or no, but I think that what most people are going to come to the county attorney for is to figure out, this is what I want to do, how can I do it, and that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to continue with you. All right. While serving as county attorney, you can choose to maintain a private practice. If you choose to do this, how much time will you give to each? Do you intend to attend every commissioner's court meeting? 1 minute.
So currently, I've mentioned this before, I have a full-time position, and then I also operate bartrack law on the side. The county attorney position will essentially just take over my full-time position. I'll still have bartrack law on the side. As far as time requirement, I don't really know how to assess that, since I'm not currently in the role. But as far as attending all the commissioner court meetings, I would assume if I'm healthy and breathing, I will be there.
Thank you. And Mrs. Brasher, same question.
All right, thank you. So the answer is I would maintain my private practice. Both John C. and my grandpa, when he was county attorney, maintained their private practice and were able to do that and successfully serve as county attorney. To answer the question of how much time would I spend in each place, when I met with John C., I asked him that question. How much time do you spend where? I think my grandpa was in office a couple of days a week. And John C. said he's there every day in the morning, and he gets there and then he stays until the work is done. And then he heads to his private practice. And I think that's what I would do as well. That's how I would model if I were elected my time in each place. I would want to be at my office and continue serving the citizens of Grimes County like I have been. But the county attorney position requires that whatever time it takes. So if it takes a couple hours in the morning, I can head to the office after that, so be it. If it takes all day, so be it, whatever it takes.
We'll start the next question with you, Mrs. Brasher. If you are elected as county attorney, tell us your top 3 priorities in 2 or 3 words and expand on your top priority. 2 minutes on this one, please.
All right, so I think the top 3 priorities would be number 1, and this is not in order, but number 1, maintaining my position as a fiscal conservative. Number 2 would be risk management for the county. And number 3 would be appropriately advocating for the citizens of Grimes County when it comes to that. My number 1 priority, I believe, would be risk management for the county. There's so much growth going on here, so many new people moving in, so many new challenges that we're facing. And I see it every single time I'm in commissioner's court. There are new challenges being faced by the commissioners. So I think my top priority would be helping the commissioners and the other elected officials and appointed officials find the best way to navigate through all of this change that appropriately helps the county and the citizens and protects us moving forward as we grow, and still keeping us Grimes County and not turning us into Montgomery County or something like that.
Thank you. And Mrs. Bartchak, same question to you, ma'am.
Okay, so my top 3 would be, I think that there can be some growth in the juvenile area of how we deal with juveniles coming into our system. On the other side, I think that reviewing the contracts, and I agree with Ashley that there needs to be some assessment of risk that's going on with the growth. And then as far as, I know if anyone's been paying attention to Commissioner's Court, they're trying to purchase or sell a lot of property. And I think that that is also an important thing that we look at to see what is the best use of that property and the ways that they want to dispose of it. Is it within the law? And so I think the top thing I would agree is the assessment of risk. And I think that starts with our contract revision. I think we need to look at it, everything from, the lease of this building onward into some of our sell agreements onto, the construction agreement that's going on with the new annex. So that would be my top.
Thank you. And we're going to start with you. All right, Mrs. Bartchak. County attorneys often struggle with the issue of exactly who their client is. In other words, is your real client the commissioner's court, the individual commissioner, the department heads, or the county taxpayers?
That is a difficult question, but I look at it kind of as a structure like a business, and the business that I currently work for is that the overall client is the county, and by way of that, it's the taxpayer is the client because you're doing what's best for the county as a whole, and they're the ones that kind of suffer the consequences if you don't advise properly. Now, I think that as far as the department heads and commissioners court, I kind of loop those together because those are the people that are going to be acting on behalf of the county, and those are the people that you're going to be advising advising. So I think it kind of works all together, but as far as who's the ultimate client, it would be the county as a whole.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Brasher, same question.
Thank you. I have to agree with Megan, and for the most part, the taxpayers are the client, absolutely. You vote for us, you elect us, you unelect us, if we're not doing what you want us to do. So at the end of the day, you guys are paying our salaries, right? You guys are choosing us to do a job and represent you. Number one, the taxpayers are the client. But I agree with Megan that the folks that I'm going to be dealing with on a day-to-day basis are the commissioners and the other elected officials and the department heads. So those are the folks I'm going to be advising for the most part on a day-to-day basis. However, the taxpayers, the citizens, you guys are also going to be the people that I'm advocating for. Whether it's a protective order, somebody's in a domestic violence situation, somebody had to call CPS on a family member. So I'm going to be dealing directly with the public in that aspect as well. So there is a little bit of a different who I'm dealing with on a day-to-day, but at the end of the day, it's the taxpayers. You guys are the client. You guys are the ones who make the decision.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll stay with you, Ms. Brasher. Under what circumstances do you believe a juvenile offender should be certified as an adult for prosecution? And this is a 1-minute response.
Oh boy, because that answer is it depends. I think there are several factors that go into it. Number one, the age of the offender. So say we've got a 16 or 17-year-old, that's going to be different than a 14-year-old. The other thing that factors into it is the type of crime that we're dealing with. So are we dealing with somebody who had a vape on a school campus? Or are we dealing with somebody who committed an assault with a deadly weapon, or God forbid, a homicide? So the factors are gonna play into that. I think the perfect storm would probably be a 16 or 17-year-old who engaged in something such as homicide or attempted murder or something like that, something serious enough to warrant the punishment that comes with being certified as an adult.
Thank you. And Mrs. Barchak, the same question to you.
I would agree that it depends. I think that it depends on a number of factors, similar to what Ashley said. Now, I think that also making this decision isn't solely with the county attorney. I think that you talk with the victims coordinator. I think you also talk with the DA, and you make a decision jointly on what is the best path forward. And of course, it matters about the age. It matters about what actually the offense is. I think, as far as talking to John C., most of our juvenile offenders are vape cases. And so I don't know that we're going to be certifying them as an adult for a vape issue. But as far as, we do have situations where there's drugs involved, and then it ends up with something with a weapon or some type of injury that happens to someone or death. And I think that those things need to be looked at as a group, as far as the other elected officials and, the victims coordinator, and making a decision together.
We'll start with you on the next question, then Mrs. Barchak. What are your thoughts on imposing sex offender registration on juveniles who are prosecuted for sex offenses? 1 minute.
I think that also depends. Welcome to the lawyers. But I think depending on I know that this is a hit or miss, it's either yes or no. But I do think that it goes back and forth with, you have the offenders that are older and that have made a decision over and over again to do these types of acts, and definitely I think that those need to be registered. But then on the other side, I think that there's like the issue of like the year difference between young people that are in the same school, and one classifies as adult and the other one isn't yet to that 18-year-old age. And I think that it becomes a very, it depends situation.
It's pretty vague.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Understood. Mrs. Brasher.
Thank you. I'll say I have a hard time with imposing the registry upon a juvenile. I think back to when I was that age and the decisions that I made and the repercussions of those. I mean, you got consequences for your actions no matter what. But the registry and how long that goes on, it depends on the age of the juvenile that we're dealing with and the scenario. Kind of similar to what Megan was just saying. In some cases, it's absolutely going to be warranted, but juvenile law is a whole different animal where you're dealing with rehabilitation rather than punishment as a whole. You're trying to balance those two factors. So can I be in support of it? Can I suggest that? Can I request that? Absolutely. But that is something that really needs to be weighed with all the other factors to determine what's best for that particular case.
We're going to start with you on this question, then Mrs. For sure. What is your greatest gift, talent, or asset you will bring to the court if elected? And this is a 1-minute response.
Okay, I am not good at beauty pageant answers. I don't like talking about myself, so this is kind of difficult. But I would say my experience in the courtroom, I love being in the courtroom, being able to kind of shoot from the hip and work on the fly, answer questions I wasn't expecting, ask questions I didn't think I'd have to ask. I think that the time I've spent in the courtroom, the experience that I have, how much effort I've put into that has made me a pretty good litigator. And I think having that experience, I'm gonna be able to walk in on day one and handle the cases that John handles right now. And I think that is my greatest gift that I'll bring to this position.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Barczak, same question, ma'am.
I don't know about a gift or a talent, but my best asset, I would think, is my attention to detail. That comes in handy with the contract revision that I do so often and get involved with so many times a day. But I enjoy it, and I think that that's part of it too, is I think that looking at a contract from one way and understanding the litigation side of it, but being able to assess any risk that comes in is gonna be really key. Like I've mentioned before, with the growth that's coming in and the challenges that are gonna come with that growth, they're gonna apply with contracts and then it's gonna it may then evolve into a litigation scenario, and I think that my asset is the experience with that.
Thank you. This will go now. Closing statements. You have 2 minutes, and we will start with Mrs. Brasher.
All right, well, I just want to thank y'all again for your time and your attention. I was wondering how many people were going to show up to this with the weather, and I really appreciate all of y'all braving it and being here to listen to us. I place a lot of importance on voting. You've probably heard somebody say this before: if you don't vote, you don't get to have an opinion about it. So these are the people who are going to represent you. I think they said there's one Democrat running. So the folks in the Republican primary, you're electing who's going to be your next official in that position. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us, and I hope you come to the next forum that's later this week as well. I just want to touch back on my experience, and this is what I do. The cases that John C. tries, those are the cases that I try. I've been doing that for 7.5 years. I came back to Grimes County as soon as I finished law school and immediately began practicing here and representing the citizens of Grimes County. That's what I do. Obviously, I've represented citizens from other counties, but this is mainly where I work. I know the courts, I know the attorneys, I know the players. I've been attending Commissioner's Court for, a year and a half now, so I know the players there as well. But my job also involves me being in the office and advising folks. In a small town, you don't get to just specialize in one area. You just do what the people need you to do. I have somebody coming in needing help with a land transaction, I help them with it. I have somebody coming in needing a business formation document, I draft it. So whatever the county needs, I'm prepared to do it because I've been doing it. I have a history, my family has a history of serving this county, and I'm asking for your vote to allow me to continue that legacy of serving this county, and I believe that my experience will make me great at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Barczak, 2 minutes to close out.
Okay, so again, thank you for coming out. So I know I talked a lot about my experience as far as business law and contracts and things of that nature, but I do want to touch on the juvenile side and the CPS side as well, because I think that is equally important. As far as the time that takes, I think it's a little less than the contract revision, but it's still equally important. In 2023, there was 4 CPS cases, and 29 juvenile, and the majority of those were vape related. I think that that's something that we can really hinge on and maybe help these kids understand the significance and the issue with using a vape. And I don't think right now we have any kind of programs in place that can do that. I think that that's something that I'm interested in helping with. We had 7 protective orders and 1 civil case. So I do think that it's important, the litigation side and the in-court experienced side, but I think that my experience also with the business-related issues and what comes to Commissioner's Court is key for the county attorney and with the growth that's coming. I also didn't mention earlier, but I also had experience with municipal utility districts, and that is coming with the developments that are coming in. Developers are going to be trying to put those here. I think that it's important that we understand how that relates to the county and what the county can do with those municipal utility districts. I've mentioned it before, but I'm from here, my family's from here, we're raising our family here, my husband and I would really like the opportunity to give back to the community and serve as your county attorney.
Thank both of you ladies very much.
So thank you very much for those answers. I don't know if you knew it, that the county attorney's jobs were so much sex and drugs and rock and roll. If we throw that in, it's a great movie, right? So we're going to move on, but before we do, I wanted to just see, is Marianne Waters here? Okay. There you are. I was looking for you. I couldn't see you. So, Marianne, if you want to come up and just, Marianne is our tax assessor and collector, and of course she is running and is unopposed. But we want to give her just a few minutes to introduce herself to everybody, and you can come right over here, Marianne.
Thank you all for coming out this evening. My name is Marianne Waters, and I'm seeking another term as your tax assessor-collector. I have 44 years of experience in dealing with this kind of work. I worked at Harris County for 18 years. I worked at a dealership for 13 years as their title clerk and billing clerk, and I worked in the Grimes County Tax Office for 11 years, 7 of those as tax assessor-collector. Since I took office, we are now a processing dealer. We now process dealer title work through Web Dealer, which at the time was optional, which gives the dealers the opportunity to do their paperwork electronically. So they're not standing in our office and taking up time when the constituents are in there trying to renew their license and registrations. I've also partnered with Texas Parks and Wildlife so that we now issue boat registrations, and we do simple boat and motor transfers there as well. 2 years ago, we moved into the Justice Center, and it is a wonderful building, and I had the opportunity to put input into how I wanted my office to look. And I think we did a pretty good job with that, because I think it really serves the community better than what we had in the old office. Myself, I agree, I push training in our offices. The state now mandates certain training, and all of my deputies that were currently working at the time, they all had that training before it was all mandated. I have myself, through the Texas Tax Assessor-Collectors Association, I have gained 3 certifications. CTOP, which is County Tax Office Professional, PCC, Professional County Collector, and PCAC is Professional County Assessor Collector. In order to keep these designations, you have to have 20 CEUs every year at minimum, and I've always gone over the CEUs that I need. We get those CEUs at conferences, we get them at regional meetings, and we get them through webinars that the state issues. There's been a lot of changes from the legislature, what they've been passing down for the last few years, and we've got 2 more big ones coming down the pipeline. Starting in January of 25, they're no longer going to require inspections on your vehicles. So if you live in a emissions county, though, like Montgomery, Harris, you're still going to have emissions testing. And the state is working on revamping the temporary permit situation, and that's going to be really big, but it won't be coming down until July of 2025. Through the years that I've been with Grimes County, I really have supported the other departments as much as possible, and I strive to serve the constituents of Grimes County with courtesy and efficiency. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
I'm going to call an audible here and say we're going to take just a 5-minute break to let everybody stretch their legs and grab a snack. But I am going to ask that when you come back in exchange, we keep those private conversations limited. Thank you. We'll be back in 5 minutes.